Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the synagogue. We're grateful you've joined us for our program tonight. I know there are familiar faces and new faces. By a show of hands, will you raise your hand if it's your very first time visiting Congregation B'nai Emunah this evening? It's okay. We want to say welcome to you. We want to thank you for being with us for this program and to hear these stories. Synagogue sees itself as a center of Jewish life here in Tulsa. And we do many different things, many of you know. We're a place that houses a deli and a pro-social bakery. We've got a refugee resettlement agency and a pretty good preschool as well. We do joyous holiday celebrations and life cycle events. Next Sunday night, we'll be together celebrating Hanukkah on the street, not tomorrow, a week from tomorrow at 5 p.m. That's what a synagogue does. But our synagogue also sees itself as a community forum, a place for important conversations. A few nights ago, we spent the evening thinking about food systems and sustainability. On Tuesday, we'll welcome Thomas Graham speaking on Russian foreign policy in conversation with Dr. Bob Donaldson. And tonight, we're here to have an important conversation as well. But this one feels a little different than many of our other community forums because this topic hits so close to home. The events of October 7th marked a moment of change and challenge for worldwide Jewry as we learned about the terror unfolding and saw risk and threat in a new way. Civilians attacked, murdered, and captured. For generations, this date will be known as a moment of significance. Many will recall how realities changed, innocence was lost, and significant shifts in personal and public discourse. No matter your background or politics or religion, we were all changed in the wake of October 7th. So we called tonight's program Stories of Resilience for two reasons. First, we know that our guest speakers will share firsthand accounts demonstrating their resilience to navigate direct attacks and somehow mark a path forward. Their stories are worth hearing, and it's a special honor to be witnesses to this recent history in this way. But we've also named this program Stories of Resilience because we hope all of us see in these stories ways in which we can tap into a resilience of our own. We live in a diverse and complicated political climate. Here's a guess. None of us agrees perfectly with the one sitting next to us on every issue our society faces. I know this is true because sometimes I don't even agree with myself on issues of great importance. When discussing complicated and sensitive topics, there's a tendency to retreat talking points or us versus them. We see this all the time on domestic issues. We know it's true of conflicts worldwide. But at the heart of a synagogue like this one are our relationships that we share. And we know that being in relationship requires the sensitive listening we've all shown up to do this evening. Respectful communication, a willingness to hear another person's story. My own hope for tonight's program is that we can listen to our guests and not only find our own resilience, but look for ways in which shared humanity can bring about peace for all peoples. May the resilience we witnessed tonight lead us toward understanding, openness, and hope. Let us work for a world that no longer knows the fear of tragedy. Let us be witnesses to these stories of resilience. With that, I'm delighted to introduce Shachaf Feinkuchen, our partner in pulling this program together, Israel emissary at the Jewish Federation of Tulsa. Shachaf.
Thank you, Rabbi Kamen, for your strong, heartly words. My name is Shachaf. I'm the Israeli emissary head here at Tulsa. I arrived here with my wife in September, only 3 months ago. Of course, we didn't know what is going to happen here, happen in Israel, sorry. Um, I want to say that since the war started in Israel, since October 7th, we've been feeling in the Jewish community, but from the larger Tulsa community, a lot of support. Our mayor, our governor, but a lot of people calling me and calling us and offering their support and kind words. And it was so heartwarming and so empowering that I want to say thanks for that and tell you that we really feel that the Tulsa community, the broad Tulsa community, stands with Israel. And this event today is another opportunity for all of us as the Tulsa community to show this support. We've got really, I think that special is not a good enough words for it, but we got a really one in a lifetime opportunity to hear the stories from those women coming here to tell their stories. And while you will hear their stories, we will become witnesses ourselves to the things they saw and their families went through in the communities and all of Israel. I want to tell you that even though we've got so much support, the Jewish people in America, but also in Tulsa, it's a hard time for us. During those times, anti-Semitism is on the rise, hate is on the rise, and we have, as Rabbi Kamen said, through the resilience of those women, build the resilience of ourselves and stand together with our friends and partners and stand against hate, stand against terror. And those days, you know, on the news and on social media, we hear so much, sometimes really hate and fake and all kinds of things. So tonight is a place for truth. We're going to hear truth from true ladies, from their true events. I ask you please to, of course, respect them. There will be time for question and answers in the end. So without further words from me, we're going to watch 1 and 2 minutes video about things happening in Israel, and then we have Danielle, which is the vice president with the Jewish Agency, making this possible, bringing those women here, and Liora, Gali, and Mika from Kibbutz Kfar Aza, the small community Kfar Aza, near the Gaza border, that will share their stories with us.
Our teams are already on the ground. They're working 24/7. We've expanded them dramatically. First and foremost, to address the needs of all of those victims of those horror attacks, victims of terror.
This is the biggest crisis of Israel society since 1948. We need to support the victims of terror. We need to support the families.
Shalom. Can you hear me? Shalom. Thank you so much, Rabbi Kamen. And thank you, Shachaf. And thank you all for being here this evening. As introduced, my name is Danielle, and we have here Liora and her two granddaughters, Gali and Mika. And we landed in the United States from Israel just a few short days ago. And I can tell you that the Israel that we came from is not the country that we used to know. You know, I think that everyone sitting here, if we had the opportunity to make one wish at this time, it would be just to go back in time, you know, in a way like Superman did in one of those movies, change the trajectory of Earth's orbit, and not so that we can place our bets on some winning sports event, or not so that we could erase wrinkles, but actually just to go back to October 6th, to the last day in which our lives seem to somehow make sense, when a time that the state of Israel was still a place that we could all say fulfills the basic fundamental promise on which it was established, the promise of never again. That never again would there be a situation that entire Jewish communities would be defenseless, would be somehow at the mercy or the none such mercy of a murderous, monstrous attack. That fundamental promise of never again was broken in the state of Israel on that cursed day of October 7th. And so when we are coming to you from Israel, we are coming from a country that is in mourning, a country that in one day more Jews were murdered than on any day since the Holocaust. Over 1,200 Jewish men, women, Holocaust survivors, elderly, children, babies were murdered in their homes, in the very place that was meant to be secure. We are coming from an Israel that is fighting, a country where some 360,000 men and women, sons, daughters, husbands, wives were called up at a moment's notice to defend their country. And think about it, a country of just 9,360,000, that's about 3% of the entire country. The university year couldn't start because the students are not there to study. The faculty is not there to teach. Businesses are closed down because Israel is fighting. It's an Israel that is displaced, with some 200,000 Israelis that are uprooted from their homes, living as refugees in their own country. Some of them left their homes in order to be safe, hoping that they can come back in a matter of weeks, days, months. Others have no home to go back to. Their homes were burnt, run to the ground. Their communities are not at all inhabitable. And we are coming from an Israel that is with bated breath, where any attempt to take a deep breath is accompanied by some weight sitting on the chest, by tears that are choking the throat, because we have our brothers and sisters, our children, our sons, our daughters, hostages in Gaza. And so our heart is hostage in Gaza, just like this necklace that I am wearing states. And so with all this, we are coming to you today, and we are also coming from an Israel that is showing beautiful signs of unity, where citizens are caring for one another in ways that we couldn't even imagine just a few months before. We are coming to see you, Jewish communities, friends of Israel, that are supporting Israel at this time in an unprecedented way. And we are coming to you to share these testimonies And like Shachaf introduced, you came into this room this evening caring, loving, fully updated in every aspect of the news. But you will be leaving somewhat different than the way you entered. You will be leaving as witnesses. And as witnesses, you carry a responsibility. And that role will go on with you for the rest of your lives, if I dare say. So thank you so much for being here. And I thank Liora and Gali and Mika that went on this journey. It is very difficult, and are here to share their hearts and their testimony with you. And just before we start, we want to pay respect to the memory and share our prayers with all those families that lost loved ones, and specifically also for the son of Liora, for the father of Gali, Tal, who was murdered on October 7th. So we'd like to light the Nerot Neshama, the memory candles, and we'd ask you please to rise and to observe a moment of silence.
Hi. My name is Liora, as you all know. I'm a member of Kibbutz Kfar Aza for the last 45 years. I have 4 children. I have 7 grandchildren. 2 of my sons, Gali's father and his brother, are living in Kfar Aza with their family. 5 grandchildren. Mika's family lives in Nahalal, up north, and my youngest son, Ron, is living near Jerusalem. Our story begins Friday, 6th of October, when my son, Ron, came home from abroad, where he had a convention, something to do with the PhD he's doing, research, and Mika and her mother picked him up at the airport.
As you heard, me and my mom, which is her daughter, live up north in the northern part of Israel, and yeah, we just came over to a holiday dinner. It was Simchat Torah, as you probably know. And yeah, we picked up my uncle Ron from the airport and drove up to the kibbutz Kfar Aza, as we do about once a month. And we haven't been for a while because we were abroad. And yeah, it was just a normal Friday.
We had a dinner at Tal's place.
At my house. We invited the whole family to dinner, and my dad was cooked. So after dinner, I went to sleep at Safta's house with Mika.
They're very good friends, those two.
Right before the dinner, me and Gali went flower picking for the table, and yeah, we just after dinner we went over as we usually do to sleep at Safta's house, and went to sleep as we always do. It was nothing special, and yeah.
So we had a very nice evening, and we went to bed, and we woke up Saturday morning, 6:30 in the morning, to the red code alarm. We all got up and went into the safe room, the sheltered room in my house, which is my youngest son's room. I wasn't scared, I wasn't afraid, I'm used to it. Gali is used to it, right?
So we took nothing with us to the safe room because we thought it's like a couple of minutes and then we can go back to sleep.
I was fantasizing about my first cup of coffee, never happened.
It was, even though it was a little bit unusual just because it just came kind of out of the blue, they were used to it, and we just got up and went to the bomb shelter room and shut the door, and I think that's where our story kind of begins.
Yeah. Soon enough, alarms went on again and again, and we couldn't leave the room. A short while afterwards, we started hearing shootings. Yeah. We heard a lot of shooting, and that's where Gali got a message.
When we understand that the alarms is like gonna be a long time, so we got out of the safe room to bring our phones, and that's when I got the message from my brother, who said that there is a terrorist in the kibbutz in Kfar Aza.
There's
Next slide, please.
yeah, just so you know, there are the slides here.
This is our text message.
This is like a screenshot of the conversation they had that morning. I don't know if you can see, but it says October 7th on the date. That was.
He told me that my dad should go fighting.
And he also told you that they're terrorists, and you couldn't believe. You said, no way, right? You said...
It's like, it's not possible. Terrorists in my home, it's not possible.
But it happened, and it was terrible. Terrorists all over the kibbutz. Tal, my son, who is the commander of the first response group, or the emergency defense,
the community defense team.
Community defense team, went out of his house as he heard that his friend from the other side of the kibbutz called him and told him that he saw terrorists coming down with the sort of parachutes. So Tal went out of his home, opened the armory room, took a rifle, and started running towards his friend's home.
To save them.
He saved them.
He fought a lot, and he killed a lot of terrorists, and then he got shot, and he kept running the whole emergency in his
communication device.
Even when he was injured.
Yeah, until his last breath, he continued telling the squad what to do. He told them there are terrorists in the kibbutz who are dressed as soldiers, as the IDF soldiers, and he told them first, deal with the terrorists, and only after that, come and deal with the wounded people. I'm injured, he told them, and he kept commanding them and telling them what to do. On his last breath, he did something that I found out later that he did. He called the commander of the defense team, the civilian defense team, in the next kibbutz, our neighbors, Kibbutz Saad. And as they got a call from him on Saturday morning, they realized that this is something that they have to answer, because you know that religious people don't answer the phones on Shabbat. But he did answer, and apparently he took out this defense team in Kibbutz Saad. And I want to think that Tal's phone call to him saved or helped saving Kibbutz Saad from what we went through.
So later at the morning, I got this video
That was the
of
video.
the terrorists getting in the kibbutz, and just like getting in, like there's no
No defense.
That was the video where we realized it wasn't just rumors and stuff, that they recognized the actual gate, and that was a video of them actually getting in the kibbutz. That's, I think, when we realized this is no joke.
that this is serious.
So Mika and Gali, you got scared and you decided not yet? No? Okay. Okay. So at that point, I understood that the terrorists are in the kibbutz, and they're trying to open the door of the sheltered room, because I have to tell you that those sheltered rooms have doors that you cannot lock. They're not meant to be open from the inside. They're not meant to be locked, because you have to be able to save people who are bombed and to rescue them from the outside. So you can't lock the door. And then we realized that we have to hold the handle of the door in order not to be able to open it from the outside. So from that moment on, for 35 long hours, my son and my daughter took turns hour after hour. One of them is holding the door, and one of them is resting while the other one is holding the door. That was for 35 hours. One is holding the door, and one is just resting.
A couple minutes after that, right? A couple minutes? Okay. I got messages from all of my friends that they are calling for help. They are telling me that there is a terrorist in their house and that they're trying to open the door. And I was feeling so helpless because I can't help them. And the people I love the most, like, in a danger. And I have nothing to do with that. So that was really
Exhausting.
We slowly started getting more and more messages of people in the kibbutz, kind of crying for help, knowing we can't do anything, and we slowly started also hearing, because that was, I think, the only way for us to have some connection other than the WhatsApp groups, to hear what was going on, because we couldn't see. Because Gali insisted to my grandma that we close the iron layer of the safe room window, which ended up being
Hasn't been closed since it was built, because I'm not scared of bombs, because the sheltered room is sheltered. And so Gali insisted, and Mika insisted, that I close the iron window, which is part of the window of the sheltered room. It saved our lives.
And slowly, as the time went on, we started hearing all the shooting and all the yelling and all the bombing getting slowly closer. And at some point, I think it was about 12 p.m., we started hearing some talking and like mostly screaming, and we we all we all stopped talking and started listening really closely to hear if it's Hebrew or Arabic, and then we heard a very loud we heard screaming in very obvious Arabic, and the next thing we know, we hear a glass shattering, and realize that it was the glass door of my grandma's house.
The terrorists shot their way into the house and started fighting the door against my son, who was holding the door. My daughter came with a knife that we had in the sheltered room and helped him closing the door in one hand, and in the other holding a knife, thinking that if anything happens and somebody opens the door, she'll be able to do something with the knife. Short enough, they left the door, and because soldiers from the outside started shooting at them inside the house, and there was a very big fight going in and out of the house. Soldiers shooting inside the house, terrorists are shooting outside, from the inside outside, and there was a big mess. I don't know, I heard hand grenades, I had RPGs, I heard all sorts of weapons shooting inside the house. We were shut inside the sheltered room. After a while, like an hour or so.
That was the moment we deciding to go hiding under the bed. Me and Mika, we said it's gonna save us if the terrorist is gonna get into the safe room and kill everyone is in the room. So we thought maybe they weren't thinking about looking under the bed. So we thought it's gonna save us.
Yeah, we were, I think we kept being under the bed for about an hour and a half maybe. We were just trying to make ourselves as small as we could get. Just to make sure that that for the moment they did come in to the safe room, they just won't see us.
This is a picture I took under the bed.
Oh yeah, on the right.
At some point, the soldiers probably either killed or chased out the terrorists away from the house, but a lot of soldiers were wounded through that action, through that fight, and they started bringing all the injured and the dead soldiers inside my house, and my house became a field hospital for those who were injured in that specific fight. There was a bloodshed all over the house.
You can see that on the left.
Soldiers were lying all over, on the sofas, on the floor, on the beds, on the dining room table, and their friends were treating them, while other soldiers broke the windows in the house and shooting outside to keep the ones who are injured and the ones who are treating them, keeping them safe. This went on for another hour or so, and by that time, after they finished treating the wounded soldiers and started evacuating them, two of the soldiers came inside the sheltered room.
And that was the moment I pulled my head.
Peeked my head out under the bed.
And I was shaking because I didn't know if it's our soldiers or the terrorists. When I saw their faces and they saw me, I was so
Calmed.
I was so calmed, and I take a breath and I get out from under the bed, and we spoke with them. They were needed internet. They didn't have internet for Google Maps of the kibbutz, or they looking for internet or books or maps of the kibbutz because they had nothing.
They had no idea where they came, where they were. If they've never been in the kibbutz before, they didn't know the people in the kibbutz. People were crying for help, shouting out for help, for rescuing, and the soldiers didn't know where their homes were. So we did two things. Gali got them into the WhatsApp groups of the kibbutz, in which all the messages were sent through. And the other thing that we did was we opened the Google Map for them and started showing them, here is the swimming pool, here is the dining room, here is the main road, here lives this family, here lives that family. Gali showed them all the people that she knew.
Yeah, and I sent them locations that people sent on the WhatsApp group crying for help. Like injured people or just people with terrorists in their house.
And I think that was we talked to those soldiers for about half an hour, a bit more. That was both really helpful and made us feel I think a little relief with everything that was going on. And
at that point, Gali got them into the kibbutz's WhatsApp so they will be in touch with all the people in the kibbutz. But what we didn't know at that time was that the terrorists killed many people from the kibbutz by then, and they took their phones, translated them into Arabic, and were already in the WhatsApp groups of the kibbutz. So once we got the two soldiers into the WhatsApp of the kibbutz, there was panic, panical reactions from people who said, "Who are those people? Why are you putting them in the WhatsApp?"
Yeah, they were really nervous. So I got into the group either, and I was telling them that I know this guy that joined to the WhatsApp group, and I know him, and I know his name, and he's in my house trying to help you guys. So they were like a little calm, but they send me like messages
to just be assured.
To be sure that I'm Gali too and not a terrorist.
And at that point, you also joined the soldiers' WhatsApp group. Right?
Yeah.
So Gali joined the special forces of the IDF at that moment.
They put her into their group, okay? You'll hear about it later on, too. So at some point, the wounded soldiers were evacuated from the house. Okay. And soon enough, the soldiers left my house, and we were all alone again for a very long time.
It kind of felt like we felt really
abandoned.
Yeah, abandoned. It kind of felt like they left us to fend for ourselves, and it was
because there was a lot of fighting going outside.
It was a little bit selfish to think that, but it was like the only hope that we're gonna be okay with them. They made us feel safe, and we want them to stay only with us, but there's so many people needing help, so there is no way, and it's not our choice.
By 3:15 Saturday afternoon, the cellular connection stopped, and we almost lost connection with the outside world while we were stuck in the safe room, in the sheltered room. But then we discovered that Gali is the only one left with cellular connection, and her phone is the only one that's working. I want to say that from that point on, Gali became the commander of the sheltered room for almost 25 hours. Okay? She handled the situation. She sent messages, she sent locations.
And, the soldiers was really...
They were flooded by all the messages.
So
Gali consolidated the requests for help, the pleas for help.
And they sent it to them, and that was really helpful. I sent them locations of people who who told me that they're injured and they got shot and they needed help, or one of their family is already dead. A lot of things.
I think what she did, it felt like she just somehow knew what to do. It didn't even feel like she was questioning herself. She just knew, and it worked out completely well, and she did know.
And I really needed to do something in this like intense situation.
I want to say something to you about resilience. The moment that we discovered that Gali is the only one with cellular connection, there were 3 adults in the room: my son, my daughter, and me, and there were 2 girls in the room, Mika and Gali. I need to say that the 3 adults in the room, my son, my daughter, and me, without speaking about it, without making vocal decision, decided to leave the phone at Gali's hand and trust her, and let her handle the situation while we are guiding her, instructing her, but giving her the feeling that we trust her and that she knows what she's doing. This is not obvious because we are 3 adults with 2 girls, okay? But somehow we understood in our hearts that this will give her strength for a long time later on in her life. You want to add something?
No, just yeah. To continue on. So, what we lost at that point. We really did. We lost the cellular connection, and all the Gali kept doing kept commending on the whole time, and time kept moving on, and we were still nowhere near getting rescued, and slowly it became a little bit like just like kind of a routine, hearing
Yeah,
the
and we
shooting get
have no
closer.
sense of time.
Yeah, we didn't know if the time was moving on fast or slow. Some moments felt like hours, some hours felt like seconds.
Not even now we're losing time, because what I forgot to tell you is that how did we know about this field hospital that it was in my house? Because at some point when the soldiers came in, we asked them to please go and go to the bathroom, because we hadn't been since Friday evening, and it was already Saturday noon, okay? So we were really losing time. To continue with the story, I want to tell you that sometimes in the evening, at the beginning of the evening of Saturday, the electricity went off. So we were without cellular connection and in a complete darkness. At some point, Mika, you discovered that Gali had a special cable, right?
Yeah, I just saw that.
How about it?
Ma? Okay, I just saw that Gali had a special phone cable that can like charge off of other people's phones. So I think at that moment, all of us just gave up. We realized that our phones are just useless blocks, and her phone is what really matters. We just use our phones as
As
portable chargers. And because it was so dark, at some point we had these 2 little candles that we decided to.
Nerot Shabbat.
Yeah.
Shabbat candles.
Yeah.
So we light the candles, and it's really help with like the light, and we see what we're doing, and we have to pee, so we took a Lego box, and we got the Lego out of the box, and that was our bathroom. So we have to see what we're doing, so we needed the candles, but the candles
They took up the oxygen.
And left us with no air.
There was just a small ventilation like thing, and it was really small and it was a little bit covered with clothes. So at some point during the night, my mom kind of opened up, like took out all the clothes that were there, but it was still a really, really tiny hole. And slowly, when the candles got burnt out, we started slowly to feel a little bit suffocated.
And we got hard to breathe.
Hours went on, hours went by. We were, sometimes in about 12 o'clock at night, midnight, soldiers came into the house.
To clear it, to check that there is no terrorist in the house.
Yeah, they told us to slowly open the door, and they told us that they're pointing weapons at us, but don't be scared, they told us. We were not going to shoot you, but we're aiming weapons at you. So we
in case that we are terrorists.
Yeah, so we opened the door, and they told us that they're going to clear the house from terrorists to make sure that there are no terrorists inside the house. And soon enough, another squad, somebody else will come and take us out. So they cleared the house from terrorists and moved on, clearing other houses.
And after an hour, nobody came to save us. And 2 hours, still nobody came save us.
At about 1 o'clock in the evening.
And then I got a phone call.
Wait, before that, at 1 o'clock at night, I heard a vehicle in Hebrew talking, and I heard them evacuating my neighbors from those who stayed alive. Most of them didn't. Some of them that stayed alive, I heard the vehicles and the soldiers evacuating them, and they just didn't come to rescue us at that point. And that's where I felt the first time I was sort of despaired, sort of very tired, and at some point I just fell asleep.
And then some point the terrorists came back to the house. I think we heard like the voices and people like running and left and go and come back, and it was like crazy. And then I got the phone call from the army.
The Air Force?
The Air Force.
She was just communicating with all special units. It was crazy. Air Force was calling her.
Yeah, I have no idea where that they got my number, but the Air Force called me and they were like, "We have a location of your house and
An air photo.
And that I should stay on the line with them, but I have no battery." So I was like, "I can't, but please just remember we are here." And then they said that they gonna save us and that some soldiers
While soldiers are still fighting outside.
outside of the house. And she asked me, how are we? Like
how bad is it for us?
How badly
if you
do we
like
need-
really need a rescue. And I was keep getting messages from injured people and my friends and my friends' brothers and all of the people I know, like injured and in a really bad situations. I don't know if they're still alive, but I know that they need a rescue more than us. So I looked at the room, our room, the safe room, and I was looking like each person, and no one is injured. We are all like, we have no air and no battery, but
No food, no
and
water.
we did had water in some point. We had like 2 bottles, and some people doesn't drink or eat since ארוחת שישי, since
Friday night dinner.
So I tell them that we don't need a rescue, that there is something more rush and that they can leave us alone for now, but please come back. Please just came back. Go for other people now, but please came back at some point.
So hours and hours.
Yeah, it's a lot of time kind of went by, and we slowly ran out of water during the night. And at some point, I found in my bag, I found this little LED light chain. God knows why I had it there, but it ran on batteries that were in there, so we had some light, which turned out to be kind of helpful.
And we like
and
Candles
that's
went
after
out.
the candles like went out because they had no oxygen left. And for all throughout the night, I was under the bed. So overall, all throughout the 35 hours we were there, I was in and out of the bed. But all throughout the night, I was under the bed, so I was really struggling to properly breathe at that point, and I hadn't eaten and didn't drink a lot, and it was getting really. We were all starting to feel a little bit dizzy and a little bit suffocated.
At about 10, 11 in the morning, Sunday morning, again terrorists come into the house and start fighting in the door with the door.
When my uncle, he was holding the door.
Mm-hmm. And soon enough, they left the door because again there were shootings
And they shut the door because my uncle was stronger than them. And
lucky enough, the shooting didn't go through the door, but it was very scary.
I felt like I'm gonna die because terrorist was actually what was separating between me and them is one door, one simple door. And I felt like it's over, and I really accept the fact that this is gonna be the end. And I wrote a goodbye letter. I said goodbye from my mom and my youngest brothers. And I wrote it on my phone, like if someone is gonna find my phone after I'm gonna be dead, so that they should know that I love them and that it wasn't that bad.
Personally, I was while being under the bed, just trying to kind of mentally prepare myself for the moment that they do come in. And I was covering my ears. I just told myself, okay, be prepared. They're gonna go in, hopefully shoot your family and not you. And I just didn't want to hear that happening. So I covered my ears and I was praying that that they don't look under the bed and that we could hopefully, me and Gali could treat.
All we did under the bed, it's praying and really holding and really holding the hope.
Yeah, me and Gali were we were kind of holding
each other's
feet.
And it was, we just really need each other because we actually saw it's gonna be like the end.
3:15, Sunday afternoon, soldiers again in the house. First they told us they can't rescue us yet because there is a lot of shooting on the outside, but at 3:15 they came into the house again. And again, they told us to open the door slowly, and they're pointing weapons against us, but don't worry, we're not gonna shoot you. And they opened the door and asked us, how many are you? And we said, well, we're 5 people. And then they asked us, are you sure that there are not any more civilians in the house? And we said, no, as far as we know, we are only 5, and here we are. Mika was under the bed, but We told them we're 5, and then they closed the door and told us not to open to anybody. They did what they did in the house, and they came back and opened the door again and asked us, how many are you? And we said, we are 5. And they said, okay, don't open to nobody. And they closed the door again and did what they did in the house. And then they came and opened the door again and asked, are you sure that there are not any more civilians in the house? And we said, no, there are no civilians in the house except for us.
And that was the moment we understand that there is people in the house except us. So
the soldiers told us, the next thing they told us was, listen, there are terrorists in the house. They're hiding in the next room. But we're going to save you and we're going to rescue you from, and you only, all you have to do is exactly what we tell you to do. At that moment, there were about 10 soldiers that stood from the sheltered room's door to the backyard of my house, and they stood close to one another, making a wall between us and the rest of the house. Behind them, there were soldiers already shooting inside the house, and the soldiers facing us told us to start running one by one, almost crawling outside the house. But she was under the bed, and there was no way we could get her out. And we told her,
Mika, get up. They came to save us, and we got no answer.
Yeah, I was very dehydrated and very just not doing very well, and I passed out under the bed. And luckily, my mom lay down next to me and was able to shake me out of it, and get me up and tell me that I was basically woken up to being rescued, thankfully. And yeah, and at that point,
So we got out of the house one by one, running, almost crawling outside the house, 5 of us. And
They took us to another sheltered room.
yeah, they took us to our neighbor's house, which was cleared from terrorists, and there were a few soldiers.
Full with the soldiers.
Mhm.
Full.
And so we stayed there for a while they were bombing my house. When we ran out of the house, I saw a tank pointing at my house, and a tank shot my house, and there was an air raid from some airplane into the house to make sure the terrorists that were there are dead. So the house is completely ruined. So they took us to the next house, and we waited there for another 45 minutes. There, they gave us something to drink, something to eat, and afterwards they put us in a very sheltered vehicle. Yeah. I missed
Next
something.
slide, please.
The soldiers in the other safe room, they told me I was sending them another locations of the last people in the kibbutz, and they told me that they saw that there is nobody in this house, that there is no
they thought we were the last
someone
ones.
alive in this house. So they not.
They didn't evacuate us with everybody else because they didn't know that we were there.
In retrospect, we think it was because of the house was a duplex, and they did clear her neighbor's house. Oh yeah, that's her house. And so, in retrospect, that's what we think happened. But there's no way to really know. But I think that makes sense. Gali.
So I sent them locations, and I was in shock that they said that there's no one on the house because we are trying to help. So after that, they came like some kind of armor,
An armored vehicle.
And
he took us out of the kibbutz
these are photos we took in the
to
vehicle.
the gas station outside of the kibbutz. She used as like מקלט, כאילו,
Shelter.
It's a shelter.
לקלוט את כל מי שיצא מהקיבוץ.
So everyone that was evacuated from the kibbutz could be in that location safe.
Now, Gali's mother, who was at her house with Gali's two brothers, they rescued her about an hour or 45 minutes before us. When she got to the place where they gathered all the people from the kibbutz, she asked them, "Did you rescue my daughter?" And they asked her, "What's her name?" So she said, "Gali."
And there
that's-
was like, "Our Gali?" and then she said,
"What do you mean, our
what? It's
Gali?"
my Gali. And then they show her a picture of me, the
WhatsApp
the
picture.
WhatsApp profile, and she was like, "Yeah, it's my daughter. How do you have your number?" And she was like in shock.
And the soldier that was talking to her was like,
they
haven't
in
they
shock
haven't-
that nobody's.
They said they haven't rescued her yet. We thought she was rescued a while back, and
my mom
and he was
told
like,
her-
let me take care of it.
My mom told them that nobody is
rescued us. Rescued us.
rescued us, and she showed them on the map where is Safta's house and where's my grandma's house, and then they came to save us.
I want to end the story with just another thing that I want to tell you. I told you that there are two sons of mine who are living in the kibbutz. My other son has two children, 7 and 9. They were also in the kibbutz, also suffering almost the same thing that we suffered. Of course, they live in the same kibbutz. At some point on Saturday afternoon, before we lost connection with them, I asked him, "Dekel, how are you? How are the boys? Are you okay? Is everything okay?" And Dekel told me, my son told me that they hear the shootings. It's far away. They're not terrorists in their place, not yet. And he told me that his two kids are watching cartoons on the computer. His wife is taking a nap on the sofa, and he's holding the door. When I came to think about it, back at what happened to me in that matter, I realized that I paused this picture for almost 25 hours since I last lost connection with them until I was rescued. I had no idea what happened to them, but I couldn't think about it. I couldn't think about not knowing what happened to them, so I paused on that picture.
You hold down to the hope. Hold down to the hope.
Yeah, so I paused on that picture, and for 25 hours I saw the two kids watching cartoons, his wife on the sofa taking a nap, and he's holding the door, like it was sort of giving me the ability to just deal with the fact that I have no idea what's going on with them. So this is...
After we got out of the kibbutz, a bus took us to a kibbutz far away from Gaza, and they were so warm, and they gave us water and clothes and food, and they took the children and play with them games so the parents could like lakel.
Could just begin to digest what happened to them.
It was really heartwarming, honestly, to see how our country and how it was kind of inspiring to see like that there are really good people out there.
Yeah, it showed us
that Israel can really be united.
But what you heard now from us is our private story. I want to tell you that 63 people from my kibbutz were murdered, my neighbors, my friends, children, men,
my dad,
women, my son. 18 people were kidnapped into Gaza, 8 people were injured, and this is only one story of hundreds of stories in my community, in our community, in other kibbutzim, in my regional council, in the neighborhood.
Thousands of stories.
Yeah,
Horrible stories.
and this is only one story of many. And as Danielle said before, once you've heard that, you're a witness, and that bears sort of responsibility with it. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liora, Mika, and Gali. Being the people that give this testimony, we'd like to give you the opportunity to ask questions, and we're also giving you the opportunity to find a way that you can actually be proactive and help families, Liora's family and families just like her, thousands of families. And I will share with you that I serve at the Jewish Agency for Israel, and Shachaf was sent here by the Jewish Agency to be a shaliach, a Jewish emissary here in Tulsa to serve the Jewish community and Friends of Israel here in the community. And you know, we are an organization that has been, since 1929, we were led by David Ben-Gurion and Golda Meir, and we were there to establish the state of Israel. And when you consider what happened in Israel on that day, everyone in Israel was affected. Most, thank God, not the horrible way that Liora's family and the kibbutzim and the communities in that area were affected. But us at the Jewish Agency, this was Shabbat morning, I was home in Modi'in. Very soon there were sirens also in Modi'in, and hearing the news coming in and watching TV and not believing what I was actually hearing, I realized very quickly that I don't have a safe room that can lock, that there's no place in my house where I can hide. And I was 100 kilometers, something like 70 miles away from Liora's home. And these are the thoughts that were going through the head of each and every family all throughout Israel. This was going through my head at 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. By 10 o'clock in the morning, I was on a call of the executive of the Jewish Agency because we were moving into direct action. We were moving into action, first of all, to protect the people that were directly in our care. Thousands of Holocaust survivors and elderly that were living in the south, also in the city of Ofakim, where 52 Israelis were murdered by terrorists that came into the city of Ofakim. Some 600 new immigrants from Ethiopia living right outside of Sderot. Our staff went in to those communities under fire to protect them, carrying their pistols if they even had them. And later that day, we put into action our Fund for Victims of Terror. Now, I want to share with you that the Fund for Victims of Terror of the Jewish Agency has been operating for 21 years. For 21 years, we have assisted 9,000 men, women, families, Israelis, victims of terror in the land of Israel. In 21 years. Because that was the number of people that needed the help. That was the number of victims of terror in 21 years. And here, in just the span of about 24 hours, we have more than 10,000 victims of terror. Those that were murdered, their families, those that were wounded, the abducted. 10,000 in just 24 hours. And yet, as I said, we have been here since 1929, and we put into action our entire system to protect the people, to be there for the people, to give immediate help, and also to say that, as we have said in all the years past to the victims of terror, you are not alone. We are here to give you urgent, immediate support, an urgent grant of $1,000 for every person who was affected, and to promise you that just as 70-some years ago, we were there to establish Kibbutz Be'eri and the many communities in the Negev that the Jewish Agency established, we are here today to promise you that we will do everything we can to help you rebuild, and that when you are able to go back, we will be there to help you to rebuild your communities, to support the families of the victims of terror. We are giving out humanitarian grants At present, we have given out already over 6,000 grants, emergency grants to victims of terror. Over 1,000 humanitarian grants. Over 1,000 grants to businesses in the area that are not able to operate. And we are here to promise that we will continue to do this for at least 3 years to come, as we will, on the one hand, participate in the physical rebuilding of these communities through our subsidiary that does building projects all across Israel, and also in rebuilding the sense of resilience and to instill in the people, and this is something that will be very hard to do and will require mass cooperation, to instill in the people the sense of resilience and of faith that the promise that Israel was made to give, the promise that Israel was established in order to give, that promise that was broken on October 7th can be re-signed and fulfilled for them for the years to come. And if you can move to the slide of the Bible. You know, we're here at a synagogue, and I'm sure that you're all familiar with this prayer from the book of Psalms. I was at Kibbutz Be'eri a few weeks ago, and a trembling young soldier came up to me and showed me this fragment of a book of Psalms that he found amongst the wreckage. And he told me how these past weeks have been like hell for him. Being in Be'eri truly feels like you're in the gates of hell. And as he was clearing bodies and clearing the wreckage and looking at these fragments of life, he found this fragment of the Bible. And what the sentence that he's been reading again and again to himself is Adonai oz la'amo yiten, Adonai yavarech et amo b'shalom. God will give his people courage. God will bless his people with peace. And I'm sure that that's the prayer that we all hold here today, and that you're all holding for Liora and her family. And I'd like to ask each of you to consider what is your role as witnesses. And I know that for sure there have been many causes, philanthropic causes, that have demanded your attention and your support, and I say thank you to you, and I'm sure that Leola's family joins in saying thank you to you. And I ask you that if you are able to support victims of terror, just like Leola's family, through supporting the Fund for Victims of Terror of the Jewish Agency. We'd like to invite you to ask questions. And we'd also like to invite Rabbi Kamen and Shachaf, but perhaps after the questions.
Should there be a
Yes.
mic?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
I'm showing my ignorance here, but that's okay. I came to learn. Can you describe to me exactly what is a kibbutz?
Of course.
And then if you would also share the ages of the two young ladies who are most impressive.
I think we'll start with the ages. We're cousins. I'm 15. She's
Almost 16. Thank you so much.
Well, kibbutz is a community. We share our lives together. We hold every holiday together. We celebrate holidays together. We raise
And
a...
sometimes Friday's dinner together.
there's a shared dining room.
And we know everyone in the kibbutz. You're going to the makolet,
To the grocery store.
and every person you see on your way, you're hi, what's up, and you talk to them because you know everyone in the kibbutz. You're like a big family.
A kibbutz is a rural community that was established, the movement was established over 100 years ago in Israel with the purpose of making the desert bloom and bringing agriculture and bringing people to settle in the land of Israel in the pre-state days. And it was built after the communist model that everyone will give according to their ability and receive according to their need. If anywhere in the world anything that resembles communism ever succeeded, it was in the kibbutz movement, because in a reality of poverty, in a reality of hardship, living this kind of shared life was the only way that they could actually make a stand and manage to settle the land. And over the years, the kibbutz movement changed and became more privatized. After all, Israel is not a communist country by any shape or form. But the beauty of the community is that everyone is a friend, everyone knows one another. You're living in a group of people that deeply care about one another.
I invite Shachaf to give you a lecture about what a kibbutz is. Yeah, thank you. Yes, please.
I want to thank you for coming and having the courage to tell us your story. We've read about it, we've seen it on TV, but you made it real. Secondly, when that young lady becomes Prime Minister, call me. We need more people like you who can take charge.
Agreed.
And tell those people older than you what to do, and they follow. And secondly, I want you to know, the Jewish people support you. We're here for you, and we are one.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it personally.
Thank you. And yes, please.
No, we got out of the house so it can be bombed.
They actually evacuated us really under fire while there were still fighting going on. When they didn't even have
They didn't have a proper evacuation vehicle right at the
Available,
ready, so
so
they were evacuated under fire, and as they were being evacuated and just left the house, that's when the house was bombed.
That's why they evacuated us to another house instead of waiting an hour until there was a vehicle available to rescue us from our house. And no, but we heard it.
I saw the tank. Aiming at my house. I didn't see it actually shooting. I just heard the shots after I was in the other room, in the other house.
Thank God that Leora did not see her house being bombed, because they needed to be far away enough from it, not very far, just in the nearby house, so that they wouldn't be harmed as it was being bombed. But you saw the tanks taking aim, and you saw the aircraft hovering right above the house.
Yes, please.
Do you have any idea of when you will return to Israel, and where will you go?
The question is not when we'll come back to the kibbutz, but if we can go back to the kibbutz, because the kibbutz is 40% of the houses of the kibbutz are either burned down totally or, like my house, bombed and need to be destroyed. Whether or not we'll be coming back to our kibbutz has a lot to do with the question of how safe will it be in the future. Politically, how secure will we feel, and then we'll have to decide what to do. I have no idea yet.
But of course, we miss our kibbutz.
And about the Israel question, we're just on a
Gali
tour.
is going back to the kibbutz, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
This is a question. This is also part of the responsibility that you have as witnesses when there is pressure on Israel for a ceasefire, when there is pressure on Israel to look at its actions and what is the goal of Israel's action. The goal of Israel's action is to give safety to the people of Israel. That is the goal of the operation, to bring back the hostages and to give safety to the people of Israel. And beyond the ability to even feel safe enough to live on these border communities. And when we say border communities, just imagine that Leora's home is 2 kilometers from Gaza, even in some points.
1 mile from the border. I can see the houses of Gaza through my window, through the fence around my house.
So when we speak about the need to give security, you can understand that this is a critical need. But beyond being able to give security, there is, of course, the need to physically rebuild, and the government will take the bulk of this responsibility, but not all. This is also part of the effort that we need support, philanthropic support in achieving. And beyond that, there needs to be a feeling that the community believes that they can resume their lives in that place. So first the war has to end. The war has to end by
And
giving the
then-
people
and
security.
Only then we can see what's next. Do you have any more questions?
Yes,
Yeah.
Before the 7th of October, thousands of Palestinians from Gaza would come to Israel to work. Now, were Israelis allowed to go to Gaza to visit or do business? Was there any interaction between the Israelis and
No, there was no, since 2000, there was no interaction between Gaza and Israel. Since the second Intifada, which was 2000. Lately, many people from Gaza could work in Israel with special permits. I do want to tell you that I'm a peace activist. I volunteered in an NGO called Road to Recovery. I personally drove sick Palestinians from the border to hospitals all over the country. I hold talks to people from Hebron, from Bethlehem, from the West Bank. This is part of what I do. I've been a peace activist for a long time. So, no, we cannot go into Gaza. Palestinians some of them can come into Israel and work, but the situation is very complicated.
I think that the question you asked, I think that you knew the answer to the question you asked, perhaps. But part of the struggle now in returning the hostages is not just the hostages that were taken on October 7th. We are also joining in the prayer and in the efforts to bring back the hostages that were taken into Gaza in previous years, whether it's the 2 soldiers that were taken captive into Gaza, whether it's Avera Mengistu, and whether it's an Israeli Arab that was taken into Gaza. And just to give you an idea, it means that any person who's Israeli or that is not affiliated with Hamas and that goes into Gaza is not going to be let out. Whereas, as you say, thousands of Gazan Palestinians were welcomed into Israel and into kibbutz, all the kibbutzim in the area, to work, to earn more than 10 times the money that they could earn in Gaza, they received as payment in Israel.
Thank you. And
been told that some security people in the higher levels of government in Israel were aware that something was brewing, something was going to happen. Were you in the kibbutzim told to be careful that something
no,
would happen?
no, we were not warned, we were not told.
We don't really know how to answer this question. We rather not. We didn't know something like that is gonna happen, and
to
we
be
wouldn't
honest,
imagine in the worst nightmares that something like that can happen.
And to be honest, I think now is not, especially in Israel right now, it's not the time to look for whose fault is it, or like, or if someone knew at this moment. I think we'll deal with it later. Right now, it's about. It's about
mourning,
saving
it's
our-
about saving, it's about
Absolutely.
giving the emergency assistance.
and it's about feeling safe right now in our own country.
It's about
homes.
getting the soldiers back home. It's about freeing the hostages. Those are the main concerns at this point. And perhaps,
Two more questions, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, since being in the safe house in the beginning, you said was sort of a normal thing. You just got up and went. Did you often have like food and water in it, or was that just something you wouldn't?
Usually in these moments, even though I'm not a Kfar Aza resident and I live where it's not as common, if at all, to have alarms, they do happen in Israel quite often. And when I say quite often, I mean whenever there's either a war or a war adjacent or something
Being
like
in
that?
the safe room, it's not usual, so we don't have food or water there because normally it's alarm and then you have to be in this shelter room for a couple of minutes and then you can go back to sleep or to whatever you did.
Everything they're saying is absolutely true, and they know about this far more than I do. But I think that just to answer your question, there's nothing normal about being in a shelter as there is a code red in your community, and you know that you have 10 to 15 seconds max to save your life. There's nothing normal about that. But this is the reality that tens of thousands of Israelis have lived with for almost 20 years at this point, and that hundreds of thousands of Israelis have had to deal with having 30 seconds or 40 seconds, or those that are extremely fortunate, like myself, having a whole luxurious minute and a half to reach safety. You can see that there's a world of difference between what you can do in 15 or 10 seconds or 0 seconds when there's a mortar shell to when you have 20, 30, or a minute and a half. There's nothing normal about this. What they're sharing is that they somehow got used to this completely crazy situation that there is a siren once a week, once in 2 weeks, 10 times a day, once a day, just normal part of your life. Oh, there's a siren, there's a code red, we go into the shelter. But going into the shelter meant that you're going in for a few minutes, maybe half an hour, and then you're leaving. So what happened on October 7th has no parallel in the entire history of Israel.
Maybe can I take the liberty to ask the last question, which is, we've heard a really powerful story, and it's moving for us. Is there something in all of this that gives you hope, that helps you move forward, that as we also take the message that you've given us of sharing testimony, allows us to be hopeful looking forward?
Personally, what gives me hope is the behavior and of the citizens of Israel and what they do for us voluntarily. Ever since the war started, we all came out from our houses only with our clothes on, nothing. I have no property in the world that belongs to me since the 7th of October. And ever since then, I've been given by volunteers clothes, food, a bed to sleep in, and this is all voluntarily and from people who I've never met before. The Israeli society and new people are giving me hope that we can rebuild our lives. And I can only thank all of you and all the people who donated things that I wear that I have in my world right now. So that's what I can say about that.
Yeah, and just to add, all that we're doing right now, this whole trip and this whole this moment, is giving me hope personally. Seeing that people care enough to come, especially, and listen to us, and seeing the support and love that Jewish and Christian and just communities around the world has shown us is heartwarming and hopeful.
So it's our privilege at the Jewish Agency to be able to bring Liora and Mika and Gali to you. And thank you so much, Rabbi Dan, and thank you so much, Shachaf. And as you are all witnesses, and perhaps Rabbi Dan and Shachaf were the leaders in this gathering today, I'd like to invite you, and we want to give you another special role. If you can please come up.
זה לא מרץ של דיסני.
This is a shirt that Win Plaza made for the hope of the return of the hostages from Gaza. And I want to give you one of those shirts. Thank you.
And you can see a necklace that mimics that every IDF soldier receives upon enlistment. It typically says their name and their serial number, and there's a way that you can break it in half, and that will happen either when the soldier passes away and is buried, they will be buried with one half and the other half will go to their family, or that if they are taken hostage, they are instructed that they should break it themselves and try to dispose of one half, hoping that it will lead to their discovery. And these were created in Israel now to say that we are all in this together. We are all soldiers fighting now for the return of the hostages, for the safe return of our soldiers, and for giving safety to Israel. We are all in this struggle together. We are all here to say that we will give everything we can for hope and for a better future. And this is also what we're doing at the Fund for Victims of Terror. And we have these necklaces to share with Rabbi Dan and with Shafaf, because you today here brought us to you, and we know that you are fighting this fight with us. So will you do us the honor and wear them? We were told by the security team of the Jewish Agency to wear these hidden underneath our clothes for our safety, but we want to wear them out proud and strong. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Friends, thank you for being with us. We have flyers for you to take with you as you exit this evening. And we look forward to being together in peace. So take care of you.